Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and I just want to do some conclusions. So the biggest thing I would say even disappointment is the premature declaration of capture by the Russian side of Berdyansk, Olivka, and Tonenke. These three locations continue to be contested with information and the geolocations confirming that the Ukrainian forces are conducting counterattack over Berdyansk, Olivka, and Tonenke. At worst, they are still holding the line against Russian assault, with the Russians are still indeed continuing to attack in this area here, and they are also conducting fire attack on Semenivka. And some of this attack went really badly for the Russians. So, and the Ukrainians are conducting artillery strikes from Novoporovsky and Novoselivska Persha, letting fire on Russian forces that is trying to attack. So the situation is still very, very tense. Ukrainians are indeed doing good at holding this front line right now. There is a few issues, like I mentioned during the SITREP. The video footage of the Russian forces sending infantry up with an APC, landing them in the village and run away without providing some armored vehicles to provide fire support for this infantry is crazy. That the Ukrainians sent one Bradley and basically wiped out the entire squad or two squads, and that's kind of unbelievable. In today's age of warfare, especially for Ukraine war that has been fought over 2 years, how can this still happen is unimaginable. How can you send infantry up and without anti-tank weapons, without the armored support, fire support, especially we're talking about Russia, which supposedly have more armored vehicles. So that is one hell of a stupid move. And I believe that there are still a lot of commanders on the ground on both sides still doing their job as if it's a computer game and sending people to die. So that is unimaginable. But important thing also to note is that on the grand scale of things, the Ukrainians are conducting massive counterattacks across the entire front line. They are trying to push back over at Boyeda and Novomihailivka. They are pushing back over at the Adievka front. They are also conducting a major counter actions over at the Sinkivka region, as well as at Terbaivka region. So the Ukrainians are not giving up. They are definitely still able to fight. And the initial assessment that the Ukrainian forces has been routed is now invalidated. The Ukrainians apparently managed to put themselves together and send in reinforcement, especially in this Adievka offensive region. The latest information also shows that Syrsky, the new commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, has arrived at the front line. It's unclear where he exists right now or over the front line, but he's definitely doing something to reorganize the Ukrainian troops to hold the defense along this front line. Again, I want to highlight that the Russian forces have dedicated an entire army group, the center group of forces, entirely at the Adievka front. So this is a lot of troops in one area here. So the Russian forces, if with one entire group of army only at this front line unable to push through, then it will be quite a failure. Then the Russian forces will have to go back to the drawing board to decide how to reform their army to make it more effective. They have enormous advantage in terms of ammunition and fire support and airstrike and air superiority, but it seems like they still have severe problems in terms of coordinating them in a way that they can actually fight effectively. Tentatively, if the Russians can't even push through a soft spot, which is getting more and more not soft as the day go by in this area here, if they can't push through, then yeah, the Russians have not really improved that much, to be honest, as compared to maybe 2 years ago. So this is something to note. Ukrainian forces are not pushed over. It is important to remember that the Ukrainians are not pushed over. They are basically also Soviet army, just like the Russians. They are trained under the same doctrine, the same training. even if they have more corruptions, both countries are still very corrupt. The only difference is a Putin and no Putin. And then now the Ukrainians have additional training from the West, which I think is mostly useless because they don't have the same type of equipment. So otherwise, they are very, very similar in terms of army type. So and in fact, even as in terms of people, they are the same kind of people, the same type of people, the same ethnicity. Even if they want to claim Ukrainian is a separate ethnic group, they are still Slavic. So this is the important thing to note. So the Ukrainians are holding back. So which means I have more business to do. I can still continue to report, so that's good. But people are still dying, which is not good. So this blood money will continue to flow right now, for everyone from the military industrial complex to the news medias and to the YouTubers. So yeah, if they fight them, we just earn the money, no choice. So anyway, so that's the reality. I just have to tell you the truth. So the Russians are, however, on the Ivaniske region, like I mentioned before, at the Bakhmut front. This battle of Ivaniske is very weird. Nobody cares about it. Nobody want to talk much about it. But it is rather huge that the Russians are making significant progress in this area here. Half the settlement has been captured already. And there's not much reporting to talk about here. There's also not much geolocation coming out from this area in terms of the assault. I wonder if it's because the commander here is more disciplined. There's a lot more regimentation to stop the soldiers from getting distracted from their job, and which is why and also to protect operational secrecy. So we don't see much footages coming out from Ivaniske except for those drone strikes or air strikes, Lancet strikes. So which probably is not under the command of the ground forces around here. I wonder if that's the case. So the battle continues at Ivaniske. The Ukrainians, there's basically no information coming out from this area suggesting what the Ukrainians are going to do about it. From my perspective, is the Ukrainians will fall back to the forest region around here, just west of Ivaniske and the southwest of Ivaniske, to hold the line if they cannot hold the urban area here. So I think this is pretty much a given. But again, in a grand strategic sense, it's not very meaningful to capture Ivaniske. It will just be difficult to hold settlement. And the Ukrainians can keep doing incursions through the forest into Ivaniske. So it will be a pain to hold this ground. So, and from Ivaniske all the way to Chasivya and Stupovsky this is Chasivya, this is Stupovsky. It's just going to be very difficult. It's just full of forests, full of difficult terrain, complicated roads, and a lot of buildings. So for the Russians to attack, in these directions, it's just going to be difficult. It's just going to be still very complicated. So I don't expect too much from the Russians in this direction. I don't believe the Russians want to go for Chasivya. I don't think it makes a lot of sense, to me at least. So we will continue to monitor and see how this goes. I mean, I do not know what the Russian commanders are thinking. And otherwise, what else do we have to talk about? Ukrainian counterattack over at Kupiansk front is interesting to me. This concentration of Ukrainian attack at the Sinkivka station, the Liman Lake and Sinkivka seems to be a bit concentrated all in one place. So that's a bit interesting to me. And the Ukrainian forces counterattack at Terbaivka seems to be pretty successful right now. We will continue to monitor and see how this progress. This is yet another front line. I think it's very complicated to really access strategic meaning into the fighting around here. But we shall see how this goes. I have mentioned long time ago, Kupiansk front is a difficult front for the Ukrainians because it is too near to the Russian border. So the Russians can easily send in more troops, reinforcement, resupply down to this area here. And so it's not going to be an easy place. And the prime objective for the Ukrainians previously was Sviatove, but they can't even reach there. They can't even go anywhere close to it. So yeah, the current objective is just to hold the ground. So anyway, I think, and also I want to talk about Orikhiv salient, at the Zaporizhia front, the Russian forces seems to have been ejected from Robotine entirely. The fact that in the in the Ryber's report, they mentioned about fighting in the area of Prokopivka. Talking about the control of the forest plantation makes zero sense, which means that the fighting is currently in this area here. This is the area that is fighting right now, which means that the Russian forces have been entirely pushed out from the settlement itself, and the Ukrainians are actually chasing them and actually causing fighting to go into this area here in the forest region. So this means that whatever claims or the geolocation that shows the Russians are able to storm through Robotine, this has not become something permanent, as they are unable to build on their success that push out, totally stranded by the mining by the Ukrainians. Means that the Ukrainians have been successful. They actually succeeded in what they are doing in terms of the defense of Robotine. So the entire the Zaporizhia offensive, or at least the offensive in the Orikhiv sector by the Russians, have entirely been eliminated right now. So it's unclear what the Russians going to do. Like, no, this report makes no sense to me from Ryber. Yeah. So if I read through, I let you see. They say that in the area of Verbove and Novoprokopivka, the zone of control in the forest plantation have been slightly expanded, and to the west of Robotine, Russians are consolidating their achieved lines. Until now, they are still consolidating their achieved lines. So no, so it sounds like cope to me. Yeah, I feel like they're coping. The entire they should have already captured Robotine by now. So the fact that they didn't shows there is something wrong with the command around here. All the Ukrainians are really, really good around here, and then they are able to successfully defend against this onslaught. So the again, another prediction went down the drain. The prediction that the Orikhiv sector will collapse within a few days or a week or two seems to be invalidated as well. Ukrainians continue to fight above their weight and above expectation, so that's very good. In the sense that if you are pro-Ukrainians. So anyway, this is the conclusions for the day of 737 for the 1st of March. You can hear that I a bit, the throat is not well because I haven't 100% recovered, and the entire family is now sick. Like, yeah, so don't know what the hell crazy virus is currently spreading around Singapore. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.